Hey everybody, my name is Lon Stroschein, former public company executive turned best-selling author, coach to elite performers, and self-declared lifestyle engineer. In 2022, I made a decision that changed everything for me. I left my job as a public company executive, and I left without a backup plan, without a resume, and without a Rolodex of clients. I left with a belief that the best days of my life were right in front of me, and that they weren't going to be lived where I was standing. Since that day, my mission has become to be a champion for the best decade of your life. This podcast is here to give you the tools, the stories, and the perspective you're going to need to finally make a bet on you. We're going to talk about the hard stuff here. The conversations here will be raw and real. There are no post-edits, no do-overs, and no limits. You'll hear stories from people just like you who've made the trade, and from those who are right there in the trenches, right where you are, still trying to figure out. If you're here, you're ready to be up to something. And if you're here, you're one decision away from a radically different life. Welcome to the Normal 40. I'm going to see all of you on the podcast.
Hello, friends. Do not, I repeat, do not adjust the dial. This is another original edition Normal 40 podcast, the OG crew. I'm Adam Eaton, and I'm here with the founder of Normal 40, Lon Stroschein. And if you've been around for a while, you've heard Lon and I talk a bunch over the years, ramble on quite literally about a lot of different topics. But you've also heard Lon do some stuff with some other folks, some really interesting guests, really giving you some insight. But every now and again, he drags me back in here into the playpen that is Normal 40 and allows me to roll around in the hay with him as we talk about all things about life, Lon. So, A, thanks for the invite back. And B, welcome back to your own podcast, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I always love it when I hit join meeting and staring back at me is Adam Eaton. And we know that we've got a podcast to do, and we really have no idea what it's going to be about. That is exciting to me. Although we do know with this one what it's going to be about, because we spent a whole 10 minutes before we hit record talking about it.
It was a solid 10 minutes, Lon. And here's even the funniest stuff. Lon and I don't talk like every day or anything. So it isn't like I'm up to speed on what he's doing. He's up to speed on what I'm doing too. So a lot of times this podcast, this format here where it's Lon and I, we're finding stuff out about each other for the first time. And that's often fun. The reaction that you see and hear is quite literally our reaction, because it's not something that I knew about or something not Lon knew about. And Lon, here's something that you don't know about me as we kick off this podcast. We're recording early January 2026. A lot of folks at the new year, new me mantra, right? The things you're going to do differently about yourselves. And Lana, I found one thing that I do that I really need to change. And I want to share what that topic is with you and get your perspective on it. And so for me, Lon, 2026 is going to be about owning it, is how I'm calling it. Owning the things that I have to own, doing the things I have to do, making the decisions, not putting stuff off, not saying I'll handle that tomorrow. Obviously, there are some things I guess I have to handle tomorrow, but owning it, being what it is and addressing things kind of head on and just making the right things happen, doing the things I have to do. And I thought a lot about you as I thought about this, Lon, because you are one that often says you got to put in the work. Right. You got to do the work. You got to do the hard stuff. Some of this stuff's not easy. Some of this reflection's not easy. And I thought a lot about you, and I'm curious, as I come to you and tell you 2026 will be about doing the work for me, what's your reaction? What does that mean to you when I say that? And how should I go about accomplishing that as someone who's had, I don't know what the count is now. Are you up to 5,000 rambles? I'm not even sure what the count is these days on the ramble. I need a ramble counter in the corner, like on The Price is Right, where it tells you how much money you have. I need a ramble counter, Lon. But what are your thoughts on me owning myself in 2026?
What a great time of year to kind of do that kind of reflection. And we all do it. Even if we're the type of person who says, I'm not that type of person. Part of us is doing some calculus on something. Year end tends to be a time when reviews come through. So you're getting scored by something. Somebody else is scoring you on something. It's a time of year when maybe raises come in. So you're getting scored another way. It's a type of year when family is coming and going and you've had these interactions and you're reflecting back as to when the last time you talked to them. And there's this reset, and then you've got this break, and then you'd return to work and you see what other people have done with their break. And you just can't help but somehow measuring where you're at in the process. It's just entirely natural. And I would suggest pretty healthy in the grand scheme of things as well. So for you, I have no idea how long really you've been thinking about this and work on this. If it's something you've just been doing as I need to have a resolution, or if it's something that's been burbling up and been stirring up in you over the course of months and months. But you've arrived at this place. How it arrived doesn't matter. You've arrived at this place where owning it, doing the things that you know you should do, that those are the things that you want to execute on. And that really sounds easy. And in fact, you can probably think of two or three things as it relates to checklist things that you'd love to just check off the list. I can. And then if this year is like last year or the year before, talking about me, not you, I'll get a few months in and I'll be like, I knew what I was supposed to do. I had a pretty clear understanding of what I should do. Why am I not doing any of those things again? And you came back, you asked this great question. It's like, when I say do the work, what does that mean? What does that mean in this instance? And when you sit down and you create your checklist of the things, you got to do this, A, B, C, D. I want to show up more at A, B, C, D. Very great. Those are really good things. But those are tasks. Those are tasks that you will do or you won't. And depending on how you did last year and the year before and the year before and the year before and probably the decade before, how you do with tasks, it's probably going to go the same way. So the work really isn't write the list and execute the list. That will work. But I'm telling you, most of the time, it's deeper than that. It's harder than that. It's layers below that. The question isn't, will I or won't I execute the list? The question is, why haven't I executed the list in the past? What is going on with me where I am smart enough, aware enough, wise enough, in touch enough, in tune enough to create the list, to see the list, to know what needs to be done, but yet also at the same time be the type of person who won't execute the list, who will just let themselves off the hook from making the list the next time, will just say, I almost did it, good enough, I guess I don't need to do that anymore, and just cross it off. There's something that's deeper, and the work I'm talking about here is much deeper. I'm going to wrap up with this, and then I'm going to see where you want to take this question. But the work is self-work. It's not the external. It's not the external, I did it or I didn't do. It's the internal work of what's going on here with why I'm not executing the list, why this isn't just natural for me.
Yeah, it's interesting the way you frame that, right? Because it's funny. I guess I did make a list, right? Of, hey, I want to do this. I have to reach out to this. I have to do that, right? So I had the list, and a lot of it was, it's kind of like that honey-do list you get from your wife or your spouse, right? And it's, have you done this? You sit down, you write it all out. That's kind of the way I did it to myself. But it's interesting that you talk about that because I'm going through the list mentally now, and I'm wondering to myself a key question that I don't have an answer to right now, which is unfortunate because we're doing a podcast. Why did I put these off? And I guess that's a great question, is that, and they're all probably individual in some way, shape, or form, Lon, but why did I not do this? Why did I put this off? Why did I avoid this? Why was this something that I did not tackle? And I haven't really maybe dove into all those things specifically, but I guess that's an interesting concept, right? So let's talk this out. Why are reasons people avoid things? Like what are reasons why people say, hey, I'm going to avoid doing that. I'm not going to worry about that. And I don't know if it's conscious or subconscious, right? But there's got to be something in your minds that say, hey, I'm not going to make that phone call to that person I need to talk to you about this thing, or I'm not going to send that email to the person about this stuff too. And I guess for my own self, maybe I don't know why that is. I don't know why there's a blocker there for me.
I think putting stuff off, the things you put off are going to fall into one of two buckets. They're going to fall into the awkward bucket. I need to have a conversation with my boss about a project that's behind. I need to have a conversation with my spouse about something that happened. I need to have a conversation with my child about something that they shouldn't be doing. I need to talk to my neighbor about something I really don't want to tolerate anymore. They're in this bucket of awkward, and you put them off because they're awkward, because they're hard. And they are. But that's also a really convenient reason to give yourself to not do them. It's hard. So then you overanalyze and you overthink, and what you do is you play it out in your mind, and we've all done it. You rehearse the conversation with your boss, you rehearse the conversation with your spouse, you rehearse the conversation with your kids or your neighbors, and you've rehearsed it from every single way. And then by the time you finally show up and have the conversation, it's usually not nearly as awkward as you thought. It's just most of the time they're aware of it. They're totally cool with doing it. But your question is, why do you avoid it? Because it's hard. But the other avoidance is weird. It's easy. It's the easy stuff you avoid. It's the stuff that should be fun, the stuff that used to be fun, the stuff that you used to be really proud of being known as delivering it. That avoidance, avoiding that, the stuff that you used to love, the stuff other people still think you love, the stuff you tell people you love, but you're avoiding it. That's a completely different beast. That is a really hard thing, one to see, one to just step back away from and see that you're doing it. It's hard to see it. And two, it's really easy to just forgive yourself for doing it. So whatever. I'll be in a better mental state in an hour or a day or a week to deal with this. You give yourself all the reasons to excuse your way out of doing it right now. But those two main buckets of the hard and awkward, it's pretty easy to understand when you put that off. But the real hard thing to understand, and as you go back and you reflect down that list of things you did do and didn't do, which of them were awkward and which of them were easy? How many of the awkward ones did you do and not do? And how many of the easy ones did you do and not do? And that's going to give you some real interesting insight into what's going on beneath the surface.
How do you start that inventory, right? How do you start the inventory of trying to figure out what's the thing that caused me to not do the simple thing of respond back to an email? How long does it take you to type an email in some cases? A minute, two, right? Hey, thanks for getting back to me. I'll call you later. How do you even go about taking the inventory of figuring out what the triggers? Because you're right. I think I often subscribe to the theory, right? I had a boss at one time tell me the little things are the big things, right? The little things are the big things, and that's what's important. But then I had another boss used to tell me the little things are little. That's why they're little, right? But so how do you go about taking the inventory of saying, why did I not do that? Like, why did I not send that email back and that person reached out and asked if I wanted to meet up to talk about a new product? Why did I not send that email back? How do you even begin? I'm sure you talk to people all the time about this and you see it from a bunch of different prisms. How do you even begin the process of going about that inventory?
All right, Adam. Great
Now I've done
question.
it. Now I've done it. Okay.
You have, because now you're hitting a nerve. You're hitting a
Let me
nerve
get
and
comfy
you had
here.
no
Okay.
idea. And yes, I see it. Yes, I see it in clients and friends and people, and I can identify it fast. After doing almost 1,100, to get back to how many rambles,
Get that counter. Yeah.
of one-on-one encounters with people I didn't know the moment I hit join meeting, I've gotten really good at some things. And one of them is picking up on the things that they are avoiding. And we're all avoiding something. We are all avoiding something. All of us. Right now, if you hit pause and you think for 10 seconds, you can think of something that you know you should do, needs to get accomplished, and you're avoiding it. It could be, like I said, it could be a conversation with a boss, spouse, kid, neighbor, but it could be more than that. It could be something that's much more deeply troubling. It could be this pain that you have that you're afraid to talk to a doctor about. There could be 100 different things. I don't need to give examples. If you're avoiding something, damn it. If you're avoiding something. And so I've become really good about identifying this in other people, but that became a problem for me. So confession time.
Oh,
I have had this thing where I've struggled more than I care to talk about, more than I care to admit. For most of my life, I've tried to escape it, to cover it up, to avoid it, to mask it. And it's this trait that I have that if I don't push through it consciously, steadily, persistently, either myself or by a boss, which when you work for a public company or you just have a boss, they're good at that. They're good at pushing you through and you can navigate it they force you to navigate it. You've got an incentive to navigate it because you're trying to avoid the awkward conversation now by just doing it well. But as I was helping people identify these things that they're avoiding, I realized along the way, there's something I'm avoiding. And what it was, Adam, was exactly what we're talking about. It wasn't the awkward stuff. I'll hop into a conversation, have the awkward conversation with anyone, anytime, and I mean anyone. I'll have the awkward conversation because if they're coming to me, I don't get a vote in their story. I don't have their answers. I've got their questions. I've got no obligation other than to do my best work of providing them the best possible questions. And so they're not awkward. So the things I was avoiding are the things I wanted, the things I built my company around getting. I was avoiding the easiest parts of my life. I was avoiding things like getting incredible notes of thanks. I was avoiding them. I was avoiding the reply. I was reading them. I was seeing them. I was taking them in, but then I would sit on them and I would tell myself, look, it wasn't malicious. It wasn't contrived. Okay, I'm going to answer this. This person deserves a great response. I'm going to put it off to the side. I'm going to reply later tonight when I have time. The next morning I would see I didn't reply to it. I'm like, all right, I'm already busy. Now I'm going to get to it this weekend. This weekend would come and I wouldn't get it done. And now by the time I did it, I would open up with an apology about how it took so long. And then I really had to work up. In my mind, I was thinking, I've really got to deliver something incredible here because they paid me this incredible compliment. I've got to give them something that really keeps that bar high. I'm an achiever, dude, and I don't want to deliver something that brings me down in their eyes. I want to keep their momentum going. I want to keep our relationship strong, and I want to keep impressing upon them that their being here matters to me and I'm going to show it by how much I put into this response. So now I've taken this thing that could have been a 3-minute reply and I've turned it into something over the course of the week that's going to take an hour of deep work because I avoided it. It grew. It morphed. And this wasn't a one-time thing. It happened again and again. And so I had to ask myself, now you ask the question, how do you do that? How do you navigate that? It goes back to this thing, this system I created for my clients. And I put myself through my own system. And if in this life I built, Adam, I don't have anxiety. I don't have anxiety talking to you. I don't have anxiety getting on the phone with you or anyone else. I don't have anxiety about leading a meeting with hundreds of people. I don't have anxiety about anything. I don't wake up with anxiety except for when this happens, when I've left somebody alone, when I've stranded somebody who said, hey, that was helpful. Can we talk again? Hey, I need you to, now these aren't clients. These are just people who I've met along the way. To be clear, I don't strand clients like that, but it would create this guilt in me and this anxiety. And for the first time in decades, I had this anxiety growing in me. And so the first thing I had to do to the process now is I had to become aware of it. What the hell's going on here? I was sitting here, top of the world, built the business I wanted. My number one rule is don't build a shitty job for yourself. Number two rule is no bad days, and I'm living it. I'm making more money than I thought possible doing this. I've got everything checking all the boxes I'm supposed to check. I've got travel booked. My family's healthy. I'm living it, dude. Why the hell do I have anxiety? Because I'm avoiding something. I'm avoiding dealing with this thing. And going back to the easy, I could make the list. I had the list. Email client 1, email client 2, email client 3, email client 4. You know what I didn't do by Friday? That. What did I do? Book the next 10 rambles. Book the next podcast. Get on the next podcast. Land the next vintage client. Whatever. I was doing that work, but the work that was right in front of me, the easy work, I was avoiding, and that was giving me anxiety. So the first thing you got to do when you close your eyes, when I said hit pause 10 seconds and tell me what you're avoiding, now you're aware of it. You've got that awareness. Number two, you got to acknowledge it. You can't just dismiss it. It requires more than an awareness. You got to acknowledge that it's there. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to like it. In fact, you'll fucking hate it, but you've got to acknowledge it. Then you have to do the hardest thing in this whole process. You got to accept that this is you. It's not a moment. It's not a thing that you're doing temporarily. It's how you're wired. You got to accept that. You got to accept this is who you are. You don't get to be two people. I didn't get to be two people in this Discover Me. I didn't get to be the guy who does podcasts and shows up for people and is really helpful and does free rambles and does more for them in an hour for free than what most coaches could do for tens of thousands of dollars in a year. And I'm sorry, but that is the truth. I had to accept that the other part of me is that once they come back, I might not be there for them. Not because I didn't see them, because I was hardwired to avoid it. That gave me anxiety. But once I had that, and let me tell you, going through that process of having that hard internal work, that hard self work of figuring out where you are, where your limits are, where you will accidentally sabotage everything that's good about you because of this one thing that's not good about you. When you do that hard work, it's fascinating as hell. It's interesting. It's maddening. And I got to tell you, when you write it down, it's embarrassing. But I came to that realization really recently and through a lot of internal work that I let things go that I shouldn't let go. I avoid things. I avoid things when it comes back around. Not when it comes the first time. That's me. I love that. Put me in any situation like that. But when it comes back around and back around, that is where something in there was detached. Something in there wasn't connecting for me. And it wasn't until I discovered that, figured it out, that I realized I got it. I got it. Now I identify where the problem is. I see the cycle. I can see it again and again. I see the cycle. I can draw it. Great. What caused it? And if you can figure that out, now you've got the complete picture of how you're hardwired. And I've done that work, dude. And I can tell you, in the few months since discovering this, and I want you to know, Adam, I sent you a document. You know this. In the minutes before this call, I sent you a document that I wrote specifically for me. In fact, it's titled Note to Self. And you're the first person I sent it to. And I talk about this little discovery I made. And it was hard for me to share it because it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing because most people don't see it. When I've talked to a few of my really great friends and I've told them what I've discovered, to include my coach, I tell them that I know this is a pattern and I feel guilt and shame. And they ask me this question. My clients, the people I've told who are in my universe, they say, we don't see that. We don't see that. We didn't even know that was a thing. So even though other people don't see it, when you know it and you see it and it's giving you anxiety and it's something you're avoiding, it's still something you've got to work on.
A lot to unpack there. I took some notes down as you were talking because I didn't want to forget some things. So let me start with this first question, and obviously relating to the story you told, and I appreciate you sharing that story. But even for others out there, how did you know you had the right thing? Did you pressure test it with somebody else? Did you say, hey, spouse, close friend and confidant, business partner, I think I do X. What do you think? Did you fact check that, or was there something in your gut that said, no, this is it, this is it? And I'm curious, if you did fact check it, how many people said, no, that's not you, Lon, you don't do that? Had you put up such a good, I'll use the word facade maybe, that even others couldn't see the sort of the what you saw as the dark spot? Others couldn't see that. But I'm curious how and when maybe you asked others and what those conversations were like.
I did fact check it. I don't know if you've ever done a 360 review in your
Sure.
corporate life. I've done a few. And when I did my last two, when I was still still serving as a public company executive, the thing I did is I answered the same questions that I had given the 360, my peers. And I tried to answer what they would say. You could call it a game, you could call it whatever, but it was me really trying to say, if I'm answering this honestly, what do I think they're going to say about me? And it isn't, yes, there were some good things. And yes, what you tune into in an assessment like that, of course, is what are the bad things what are they seeing that I'm trying to hide? But what's probably getting through? And when you answer the 360 as someone else, as you think someone else is going to answer about you, you confess some things that you know are true, that are just right there, that are underneath the surface, the things you try to mask over. But when it's just your 360 of you and you're not going to share it with anyone, but you're going to use it to compare side by side as to what did somebody else say about you, you will be amazed at how accurate you are. And you'll be amazed about what the people who are around you every day already know about you. So to answer your question, fact check. I don't think you could ask a single client, a single member of my insider community, a single person who I've rambled with, if this is a trait of mine, and they'd say, oh yeah, for sure. I promise. I can't promise you that, but I haven't found one yet. We're like, yeah, man, we see that. They won't see it. They won't see it. The people who see it are the people who support me inside a normal 40. The people who have access to my world about what's on my calendar, what's getting done. The people who have access to the list of things that I need to get done and what I'm getting done and what I'm not. People have access and have visibility to what I'm prioritizing and what I'm not. People who have that type of access, when I come to them, and by the way, these are the people in your business. These are the people in your house. These are your closest friends. These are the people who know you beyond this episode you put out. These are people who have inside knowledge. Those people, they're not surprised. They see it. And on one hand, they're relieved. They're relieved that you see it and they're celebrated. I can tell you, the people on my team, when I said, look, I've got this trait, I know it. Guess what? You know it too. Now I put it into words. I'm going to fix it. And you guys help hold me accountable to fix it. Oh, and by the way, some of these things that I don't like to do, and as much as I wish I would just do them, help me do them. Help me plug that hole. And they were immediately, of course, helpful. They just didn't know that I wanted help there or that I was able to accept the fact that I needed help there, whatever the case may be. It's opened up this entire new door. And those are the people who I fact checked with. Hey, everybody. Thank you for listening to Normal 40, the podcast. If you're here, it's probably not an algorithm or an accident. If you're here, it's probably you. And if you're here, I want to invite you to try something else. 2 years ago, I launched a community called The Insider. And when I created it, I thought it was going to be a coaching community where I could come in and teach. But what it's become over the last few months is something radically different. It's a place where we hang out, where we help one another, where we support one another, where people come in really skeptical that there's really a group of people like us doing things like this, and really skeptical if there's anything out there that can be helpful to them. And what they find after only a few calls is that we're really here, we really show up, there really are people in your corner, and that if you lean into it, it can change your life. I'm inviting you to be an insider. It might be the best decision of your lifetime. Go to normal40.com and you'll find the insider, and I hope to see all of you on the inside.
All right, let me play the devil's advocate for a second. You said this a little bit earlier, but I'll paraphrase it as only I can. People are looking at you and they're going, Lon, that's total bullshit. You built Normal 40. You've got this thing together. A lot of people rely on you. You've got a lot of folks who you've helped, a lot of folks you've supported. You're, to your point earlier, you're successful beyond the means that maybe you thought you would be. You're not being held back. This was a nothing burger. No one's perfect. So you had this little thing, and so you don't email me back on time. Yeah, big flipping deal. You're still a somebody who has had a lot of success. Why bother going down the pathway of just needling at this little nuisance when the bigger picture is okay? Why bother doing that?
There again, just keeping it about me and my avoidance. For me and my avoidance with Normal 40, with my family, with my friends, it's a limiter. Avoidance of anything is a limiter. And so let's just keep it about Normal 40. If I'm avoiding things within Normal 40, important things, important or not, doesn't matter. If I'm avoiding things, that avoidance, wherever that avoidance is, that now becomes the ceiling of what's possible. That's it. That's as high as you can go. That's as far as you can go. That's as fast as you can go. Wherever that avoidance is, it boxes you in. Whatever you're not able to address yourself and fix, or surround yourself with people who will do it for you, to the extent you avoid that hard realization, that hard discussion, before you aware, acknowledge, accept, and permit yourself to fix it, before you do those 4 things, it's your limit. You've just found your effing limit. I couldn't take Normal 40 any higher, faster, or further, so long as I wasn't willing to say, this is where I stop. Every time, this is where I stop. This is where the problem is. And by the way, getting to that problem is fun. I can do that all day long. But once it's there, for some reason, even though now I know what it is, I can't. This is the embarrassing part. I can't trust myself to do it. Even though I know it, even though I see it, even though I've done the deep work, I don't trust myself to actually fixing it. So I'm doing it by surrounding myself with people who can and will and fix it way better than me. And by the way, then the client experience is better because now they're not waiting on me. And by the way, their progress is bigger. Their progress is faster. They're going farther because now that limiter, that anxiety, the thing that I'm putting off for a day and then a weekend, and then it takes me 2 hours to actually create something, that limiter isn't there anymore. Everything goes faster. So until you do that, have this embarrassing, awkward, hard, fascinating, interesting, maddening conversation with yourself, you've set your limits. You've set them. And until you realize what those limits are, you're going to have this dull anxiety. You're going to have this, it's like a migraine of frustration. Like it's not migraine of frustration. It's probably a dull headache of frustration. A migraine brings you to your knees. This doesn't. This is just this thing that gnaws at you. And until you deal with it, it's just going to it's going to box you in.
You mentioned the deep work, the hard work. So somebody out there is listening and they're going, you know what, Lon, you're right. I have the same thing. Man, I guess I do have these things. Where do you start to do the work? Because I think sometimes maybe that can be overwhelming, right? You recognize, hey, I have this thing. I see how it's maybe limiting me. It's holding me back where if this wasn't there, it would allow me to reach a different potential. How do I go attack this ugly beast? What do I do? Do I make radical change? Do I start chipping away one at a time? How did you begin that sort of that dark work? And where is that? What's kind of the first step along that journey to get people started?
Look, I think there's a shift in the world going on, certainly in Western culture, towards the acceptance of therapists and coaches. And a therapist can be a coach can't be a therapist. And every good coach should know the difference. And I think that if you've got this thing that you're aware of, you can acknowledge it, but you can't accept it. You can't articulate it. You just can't move forward with it. What's there? Man, just go see someone. Talk about the best couple $100 you could spend in your entire lifetime to unload a little bit of shame and guilt and anxiety. Are you kidding me? Just do it. Just do it. And you'll be amazed at how many people already are seeing a therapist or have hired a coach or book a free ramble with me. That is why I do these things. But permit yourself to doing something. Don't permit yourself to living with it and leaving it alone. Accept, acknowledge, aware, accept, acknowledge, permit. And that's where it starts. And it is really hard. And what I did just beyond that is I started writing about it. What is the pattern? What is this? What is this thing? I knew I was putting things off that I should be doing. And after a while, I knew that was bothering me. So I just write about it. I put this off. What was going on? Why did I do that? What was I feeling? What was going on in me when this note came in? Why did I wait? Why did I think I would do it later? What actually did I have to do when I went to respond? This awareness is really a deep study. It's a curiosity of what is my pattern? We're all just a series of patterns. And this, for me, was a pattern that was broke, a pattern that was established when I was 11. And I went all the way back and did that hard work of deciphering, where did this pattern in me start? Oh, and by the way, did it follow me all the way through my life? And the answer was yes. And then, by the way, the question is it still serving me? And the answer is hell no. Do I still need it? No. Do I wish I had it? Would I wish this on my worst enemy? No. Do I wish I could get rid of it? Hell's yes. So I don't know that I'm answering your question all that well, but I want, if nothing else, if you feel these things, if there's something there, look, go see someone. Holy shit. It's not that big a deal. Go right to the internet and say, therapist near me. Go to my website and book a free ramble. I won't be your therapist. I am not qualified, but I'll ask you a series of questions that I bet triggers some things in you that you can work on that helps move you forward. It will be the most, like I said, fascinating, interesting, maddening, and embarrassing work you do all year.
So I'm hearing you and I'm thinking about myself, and in the spirit of honesty and in transparency and openness, let me tell you what I would do. And I'll give you a little story of my life to backdrop this. When I was a junior in high school, I finally made the varsity basketball team. It was a huge goal of mine. I wanted to be on the team so bad. I finally made it. I practiced all summer. I ran, I lifted weights. I did whatever I could to make the team, Lon. And right before camp opened up, I was playing and I broke my wrist on my right hand. I'm right-handed, so that's my shooting hand. And now I've got tryouts, I got practices, and I can't use my right hand. So you know what I did, Lon? I became the best left-handed player I could. I learned to shoot left-handed. I learned to dribble left-handed. I still actually do a lot of things left-handed because in those formative years, I literally had a cast out to my bicep. I couldn't use my right arm. I'm hearing you say all these things and I'm thinking to myself, you know what I would do? I would just work around it. If I have this thing, this avoidance thing, you know what I would do? I'd avoid the avoidance. I would just work around it. I'd figure out a way to say, all right, well, then I won't worry about that. I won't talk through that. I won't send that email. I won't even be in that situation too. So what do you say to the Neanderthals like me who say, I'll just work around that, Lon. I'll avoid my avoidance and I'll be just as happy. What would you tell me as I tell you I'm actively thinking about ways to avoid having to worry about avoiding things?
If if you can demonstrate to yourself, you don't have to demonstrate it to me, but I would approach my questionings along this line. If you can demonstrate through my questions that you can avoid the avoidance and not ultimately be limiting yourself in the long run, not limiting how you're feeling on a month-to-month basis, not limiting what's capable and possible for you in the long run of your position, not limiting yourself to what you are enduring and tolerating. If you can do that, then avoid the avoidance, go around it. I salute it. But if it's something that's keeping you up, something that's giving you anxiety, something you wish you could fix, something you have tried to avoid avoiding it, because we all do that. Spoiler alert, elite performers all avoiding it. We all just try to work around it. Plan B, C, D, E, F. That isn't really a problem. That's somebody else's. They shouldn't have expected to hear from me so quick. Whatever excuse we're going to make in our head. As long as you can articulate to me that it doesn't lead to some sort of long-term pain or deferred maintenance that you're just going to have, that it's a bigger problem later, but you've deferred dealing with it now, then keep avoiding it. I haven't found a case yet where somebody did this work, identified a problem, did what they needed to do to actually resolve it, be it in themselves or surrounding them with other people through transparency, just owning it. This is what I do. I've got a tendency to do this and I'm working on it. But if you could help me not do this anymore, just that, those few words, it changes everything. And it changes your boundaries. It sets new limits. It lets you go faster, further, higher, farther. And so that would be my challenge for you. You've got to prove to me that it's not ultimately really holding you back.
Let's stay on the sports analogy for a second, Lon. In life, in a game, you need a scoreboard. So how do you keep scoreboard on this to determine if the work you did is working? How are you judging, discerning whether or not you've done the work, you're where you need to be at? What are the things you're looking for? Are you keeping mental notes about interactions? Are you reaching out to people for feedback to get a sense for how you handled something? What's the scoreboard that you're using is in your example and that maybe others can use as they say, okay, you talk about achievers. If I'm going to put in the work, I want to see the result. How do you judge and scoreboard out the result?
Dude, what a fantastic question. There's a few of them that I'm using, man. We're talking about me and my shortcomings here, my hardwiring to be avoidant. And my scorecard is a better, because it's just for me. My scorecard is a couple of things. It's one, how many unread messages do I have? And the ironic thing is my unread messages aren't the hard ones. That's the embarrassing part. They're the easy ones. God damn it. They're the easy ones. How many do I have at any given point? And if it's more than one or two, I, I'm failing there. I'm got to do something. Another one, when you run a community like I do, called the Insider, when it's normal in any community that people come and go, and there's all sorts of reasons why people come, and there's all sorts of reasons why people go. In my community, people graduate from Insider to maybe Inner Circle and then maybe to other communities that we have. So they kind of migrate. That's progress. That's a progression. And eventually they graduate. You don't need normal 40 anymore. You're off and running and doing your own thing. So that's a scorecard that I can measure, and I do. The other one is the people who don't get what they need. The people who leave, and I assume they don't get what they need. And those are the people, when we go back now, because I've hired people around me to go back and say, hey, just do us a favor. Tell us what worked and tell us what didn't. And tell us why you ultimately decided to separate. And most everyone is gracious about telling us what their reasons are. And when they tell us what it has been when it was just me, when it was just my little company, it was just me, which the Insider was for more than a year. What they were telling us as we have gone back and asked them is, I wasn't able to connect with enough people the way I wanted to. So the way I translated that, Adam, there again, talking about embarrassment, is I didn't show up for them. I showed up for them and got them excited about getting into the community. But they couldn't trust me to keep them in. They couldn't trust me to keep showing up, keep coming back, keep doing those things, checking in on them, sending them notes on a very personal level for two reasons. One, I just can't do it with all those people. Okay, I think we can all be forgiving enough there. But two, because they felt like they were left alone. And this thing we go through that I call normal 40, this transition, this point in life where you're going to transform who you've been into something you're capable of being. That moment, and that moment isn't a moment, it's actually a series of years where you go through this. But in those series of years, it's lonely. And the last thing I should do for somebody who's started to say, I'm here, I'll show up, I've started, is leave them alone. And so what I've done now is I've rebuilt the community. And the mantra of our community is never alone. The mantra of what we do is never alone. And it's a reminder to me, it's a reminder to my team, it's a reminder to everybody else who's in the community. If you see somebody who was engaged and is not, it's not my responsibility, it's not my team's responsibility, it's our responsibility as a community to show up. Ask them what's going on. Ask when they're going to be in a call. Ask for the next one-on-one. So what's my scorecard? Who's leaving and why? They'll tell me if I'm hitting it or not.
I'm curious, what's the reaction been? So if you had not told anybody this, right? So if you and I were not talking about this change, this philosophical change you've made, this introspective change you made, would anybody noticed? Can you see an empirical difference Do you feel an empirical difference? I know you're giving me metrics. Like I talked to this person and eight people left, eight people came, but I don't want to hear metrics. I want to hear Lon's inner Lon saying, do you feel tangibly or intangibly that there's a difference and the difference that has been felt?
Yes. Without question, the answer is yes. I'm a I communicate in feelings. That's how I'm hardwired. That's the people who follow my writing, probably even follow this podcast, do it because of how I communicate through feeling. And that's art and good and helpful, but it's also can be weak and an excuse and not tangible. To answer your question, I want to answer two questions. Did anybody notice? Look, I'm sharing this, Adam, not because anything was broken. Nothing in Normal 40 was broken. Nothing was really, I don't think anybody you'd have asked, anybody would have. And in fact, everybody who's in the Insider, a member of Normal 40, is probably going to listen to this and go, I don't really know what in the hell he's talking about. So this could have been a secret. This could have been a secret like it's been for the last 35 years of my life. This could have been something that I just dealt with, fixed, and moved on to. But the point is, if my job is to inspire people to do the hard work so that they can be best positioned to change, I got to talk about the shit I go through. I got to talk about the stuff that's hard. I got to talk about the stuff that I wish would just stay a secret. That's kind of what I'm signing up for here for. So it could have stayed a secret. I don't think anybody would have really known who's really close, but I would have. I would have known. The second part of your question, or the second way I can answer your question, did anybody notice, is I do. I do. I'm weeks into this. It's not like this is, hey, a year ago I did this entire relaunch and look at the proof. I'm weeks into this. This document I sent you is weeks old, like 2, maybe 3 weeks old. The hard work I started doing was really since Thanksgiving. So we're talking 60 days of really deep, hard, internal, personal work to say, what is this thing that's given me anxiety over the life that I said I wanted? I found it. It's this avoidance. It's this messy little thing of avoidance. And then I had to do the deep work on it. And I can tell you this, because I can now say things like, guess what? I can make the list. I can see the people who I should reply to, and I can't fricking even trust myself to do it. Man, that is maddening and frustrating and embarrassing. It's embarrassing me for me to share that here. But at the same time, it's allowed me to do two things. Hopefully show you that you too can do this work and that it's normal and that there's probably something you're avoiding, that if you do the work, it's going to lead to something really cool. And the other thing is, I've put people in place to help me not fall into that rut of avoidance, not let that be the default, not let me avoid the avoidance. They hold me accountable to it. And by the way, most of them just take care of it. It is in their zone of power. It is in what they're great at. And they can, right where I leave off, they pick up. It actually has made Normal 40 in a month 10x. And 10x, that's a feel number, not a mathematical, statistical, I can prove it number. You asked me for feeling, I think it's 10x better. My anxiety, I don't have it anymore. I feel like when I can see when my team has reached out to someone, I can see the communication happening. And instead of being, the only feeling I have is relief. It happened. It's working. And I get to go do what I'm great at, which is inspiring the next person to do something. Hey, everyone. Thank you once again for listening to Normal 40, the podcast. Look, there's a reason why this podcast is going to get downloaded thousands of times. And there's a reason why thousands of people show up to what I write and what we share. And there's a reason why hundreds of you join me on The Insider. The Insider is a community that I thought was going to be a place for me to show up and teach and coach. But what it's become is a fan base for people who are ready to get started. It's a place to connect to the people you're going to need for the best decade of your life. And it's the most affordable community, most valued community that I can offer. And I show up in there at least twice a month. And we do live events and have special guests. And I even record podcasts in there from time to time. So look, go to normal40.com, join the Insider, check it out for yourself, and do yourself a favor. Let's be up to something. All right, I'm going to get back to the podcast.
Yeah, I think one of the key things that you've said, Lon, that I think is really important, you've said the word team Probably no fewer than 8 times so far in this conversation. And I think that's really interesting conceptually because a lot of what we've talked about historically in Normal 40 is it's really tough for someone to get in front of their spouse, their friend, their coworker and admit something's not right with me. I'm not who I want to be. You talk about like A-type personalities. You're hardwired just to put your head down and keep plowing through the work, man. That's what you do. You get up tomorrow and you go to work again. You get up and you go to work again. And that's how you're wired. But you're sharing, you're showing you stopped, and again, keep me honest if I don't have this articulate the right way. You stopped and said, "Hey, I need some people along this journey with me. I need to have some humility. I need to be willing to be embarrassed, using your word, and bring some people in and say, folks, I need some help. I need someone to be the dog shock collar and tell me if I'm not doing stuff the right way." That I feel like that was probably interesting conversations for you. And I'm curious how how much did it take for you to, again, using your words, embarrassed, to say, all right, this is embarrassing, but I have to go do this? That feels like it's not something you woke up and said, I'm going to do today. That feels like that probably takes some time for you to get to the right space where you're comfortable going and telling people. And I assume maybe some of these people are people you've known a long time. Maybe some of these people are people that are new or strangers to you, but to say, all right, I've got to go talk about this now. Walk me through that process and how you went from A-type personality, corporate executive, leading big companies, no, follow me, we'll always get it done. And there's no boulder I won't get out of the way for us, to stop and go, hey, I need some help with this. That had to be a really interesting juxtaposition for you.
Everybody listening to this podcast has been filtered. I'm just telling you. I know if you're listening to this, I know your personality. You wouldn't be listening to this if there wasn't something in you that you wish was different. And that's totally normal. But it's probably a little deeper than that. And you probably got some frustration, but you've probably also achieved way more than you thought possible. And you have this incredible, sterling looking image on the outside, but it just doesn't feel like it looks on the outside, on the inside. It's this anxiety that's just burbling under the surface. And I know you've dedicated 15 years of your life to getting exactly where you are. You've told people where you wanted to be and you've got there. And you are the type of person that other people count on. You are the problem solver in everything you do. The boards you sit on, the job you're compensated to have, and you come home and hear problems and you solve them. These are all traits, and I've got 500 more of the type of person who shows up here. But the one to anchor on here is, if you're listening to this podcast, you are a problem solver. By and large, when people ask about you in circles that you're not in, they describe you as the person who gets shit done and solves problems. When there's a problem, call this guy. You need a contact, call this gal. You need some shit move that you can't imagine, call this person. It's you. So imagine the first time you get to this place when you realize you are the problem. Wait a minute. I have something that I need to ask help on. That's not what I do. That's not even in my language. That's not, you're this crazy dude on the internet's telling me, go find a therapist. What kind of dumbass is that? I don't need a therapist. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever. I get it. I completely get it. I get how it sounds, but I know who I'm talking to. I know who's listening right now. And I know that on this journey of yours, guess what? You get to be the problem. That isn't a curse. You get to be the problem. You get to get your own focus. You get to have your own people surrounding you, supporting you, asking you, helping you, and holding you accountable to being a little bit better. Not because they want to hold it over you, because they care about you, because they give a damn. You get to be the problem. That is a gift. And we don't take it. We don't take it. So to answer your question, once you realize, you give yourself permission to be the problem and to work on you, and you realize what it is, and you know what that thing is that's giving you anxiety, Adam, you can't unsee it. You can't unknow it. It will just sit there and stare at you. It'll stare you right in the face. And it will taunt you and beg you and punch you and everything it should do to try to get you to deal with it. And until you realize that you get to be the problem and that you can there are people right around you. You've got a personal board of directors that you're one day away from creating that can help you through this. You tell them you've identified something you want to work on. You ask them if they will help you do it. You ask them if they will hold you accountable. You ask them if they will take in some things that you've learned about yourself that you want to work on, and they'll do it. So you've asked me who my team is, and I do talk about team. My team is my community of insiders. We talk about the team. We talk about that team. We talk about the people who show up. We showed up today. There was a call today, like there is every Thursday, at least every Thursday. And we hold one another accountable, not me. It isn't everybody's responsibility to hold me accountable. We hold one another accountable. So there's that. But then in addition to that, there's two other really important teams. There's the team that's really close to me. I talked about the team who could see my calendar, the team who can see some of my emails, the team that can see the work I'm doing and the work I'm avoiding. That team knows me different. So that's one of the teams. The other team is my family, man. This avoidance thing, as much as I wish it was confined to work, wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't it be nice if that was just a normal 40 thing that I had to deal with? Something that I just worked on when I was sitting at my desk or writing a post. No way, man. It's something that exists in every part of my life. And you feel the same fascination, and it's interesting and maddening and embarrassing in all those corners of your life. We just happen to spend today talking about normal 40 in business, but it permeates everywhere. So the work I'm doing in normal 40 and that scorecard is one thing, but look, dude, I got to do some work on the home front. And believe me, when I confessed this to my wife, the person who knows me best, there were no surprises to her in what I was sharing. She was totally gracious and good and wonderful, but she's like, you really didn't know this about you? I thought I was communicating that to you. But it's still, you go through all those emotions and it really does intersect with a whole bunch of portions of your life. It's just easiest for performers and problem solvers to talk about work first. As much as shallow as that sounds, let's own it. Going back to what you said, own it. If that's the right place to start, because that's what you can talk about, do that. But don't be surprised when you realize that thing you unearth, that thing you're avoiding, that it's actually permeating other parts of your life too. Be sure you own that at the same time.
A lot covered on this episode, Lon. Let me start here and just offer you a hearty thank you, because it's not often easy to share some of your own warts and some of the things that are maybe gnawing at you. So I appreciate your candor, your grace, and your strength in sharing this with all of us and everyone who tuned in and listened and watched. And I know you enough to know that the things you're talking about will manifest themselves in your work, because I know this is your life's work. This is your journey. This is your path. And this is something that you're invested in doing and getting right and continue to grow better at. Now, someone listen to this, and the mystery of the internet is algorithms. Sometimes things pop in your feed and you're like, how did this get here? How did I find this podcast? How did this YouTube video pop into my life? And why did I just waste all this time watching it? And man, who is this guy again? So for that person who just found you in their algorithm for the first time in their life and are now hooked and trying to figure out how they get more of this, Lon, share more about, I know you've dropped some nuggets of some things here so far. Share more about where people can find you, can show up, can be a part of this community, can be a part of your team, and be a part of what it is that you're trying to build out there at No More 40.
There's just a few places you can find me. I'm not all over the internet. I'm on LinkedIn. That's where I show up and I do most of my writing. You can find me there, Lon Stroschein. You can also search Normal 40. I'm going to come up, I promise you. And I really wish you would. I wish you'd find me there and follow me there. You can, of course, go to normal40.com. You can learn about The Insider, which is a community I run of people who listen to this podcast. So if you're listening to this, I promise you, that is a community for you. It's month to month. So if you come in, you don't like it, no questions asked, man. One email and I get it. But my mission is not to leave you alone. You heard me say that. And you're going to be surrounded immediately by people who are right where you're at. Hundreds of people, not just a few, hundreds of people right where you're at. And there's power in that. Third place is I've got a newsletter that I put out that just share the things I've learned through 1,000 conversations, like really incredible nuggets of things I learned from really elite performers. And it's called The Inevitable. You can sign up for that at normal40.com and just sign up for it. It's free and just grab it. And that's, of course, this podcast. But I mean, if you just get into those few things, go back. I'll say one more thing. Adam, you and I started doing this podcast and we had no idea. We had no idea. This is going to be probably pushing podcast to 100. We got to be right around there. We had no idea that when we started this 2.5, 3 years ago, that it was going to get hundreds of thousands of downloads over the course of that time and what it was going to do and who it was going to connect people with. So if this podcast mattered, go all the way back to episode 1. It's a podcast. It was the second time Adam and I ever talked. It's a podcast called The Beginning. And it's still the most listened to podcast I have, because a lot of times people find one podcast like, who the hell's this guy? And then they go back and they start from the beginning. So go back and just listen to podcast 1. It's going to talk to you. If this talked to you, I promise that one will too.
That's a great way to wrap this up. Again, if you listened or watched in the first time ever, hit subscribe, make sure you're keeping us in your feeds and in your circle. We're honored to be a part of whatever journey it is that you want to be a part of. And as Lon said, we're here when you need us. When you're ready for us, we're here. But one thing I can tell you as we wrap this episode that you will be is never alone. I heard that's the new tagline. We're never alone here on the Normal 40 podcast. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And everyone, take care of yourselves. Have a great day and go out there and be up to something.